having the follow-up, Dr. Lou. You're a hero. You are really in our eyes. My family and I are really happy to be here tonight to be able to share our story. I am now put on the hot spot and have to share that story. I wasn't actually going to do it, but
it's a good story.
I will. Although I didn't know it, our paths have crossed with the Steve Cycle paths a few times. The first time was at the Relay for Life in Grimsby, where we heard an incredible story of bravery and strength from Tara Jacqueline. I believe she spoke last year here. The second time was at the Ambassador Appreciation Night at the Steam Whistle Brewery. My wife and I are amazed at the accomplishments that this team has had in fundraising, in raising awareness for the need for cancer research. It's truly remarkable. Before I share my family story, I'd like to introduce my family. First, my cousin Chris and his wife Stephanie are here as well tonight. My son Cody, he's 11-year-old. He's a bit of a ham, I'm sure he'll be up here to tell the story. My son Cody, he's an 11-year-old active boy. He plays flag football, tackle football, soccer, and like most 11-year-old boys, will not stop talking about video games. Megan, my 7-year-old sweetheart, she's 7-year-old. She has jazz, she takes jazz and hip-hop dance lessons, has tried acro, and a number of, I think this is 4 years of jazz lessons. My wife Cheryl, I'm not going to tell you how old she is because I'd like to go home tonight. But she's the rock that's held this family together for the last few years. And then there's Olivia. Olivia is 6 now. She was 3.5 when she was diagnosed. And even without the cancer, she is by far our family troublemaker. On June 12, 2010, my family's life was turned upside down. As you said, Denise, we were getting my wife and I were getting my daughter ready for their dance lesson, the last dance lesson before her big recital on the 13th of June. I walked into her room and I found her laying on the floor. Her little leg, her foot was shaking up and down. I'd asked her if she could stop that, and before she could answer no, I had tried to get 911 on the phone, and she was on a full-on unresponsive seizure. She was rushed to McMaster University, and a day later she was diagnosed with stage 4 neuroblastoma. The doctors had found an 8-centimeter mass in her adrenal gland. It's just above the kidney. There was a 3-centimeter mass in her sternum. There were spots along the bottom of her lungs, the right femur, left knee, up and down her spine. And when they did the lumbar punctures, there was 55% cancer in the bone marrow on the right side, and 35 to 40% cancer on the left. We were told that her treatment, if we wanted her a chance to live, would be fast, hard, and extremely aggressive. So I'm a numbers guy. I immediately asked, what's the chances of beating this? I got the hum and haw, every child is really resilient, and they didn't want to answer that question, but I insisted, and she was given a 25 to 30% chance of beating it. Over the next 1.5 years, Olivia would go through 6 rounds of chemo, 9.5-hour surgery to remove the large mass. She went through 96 hours straight of chemo before a stem cell transplant, 12 sessions of radiation, and she then qualified for 5 months of this experimental treatment called immunotherapy. Immunotherapy is an enzyme that's injected into your body. It coats whatever cancer cells are there, and then your body is given an immune system booster, and your immune system's firing in overdrive, and it attacks these coated cells much like a flu bug would work. Because her cancer is in the sympathetic nerve cell, so what makes you blush and what makes your hair on the back of your neck stand up, this treatment is extremely, extremely painful. At one point, she was on an IV drip of morphine, Ativan, and lidocaine at the same time. At points, it was kind of funny because she would sit up and start yelling at Megan for crawling underneath her pillow, and Megan wasn't even at the hospital at the time. To put this treatment into perspective, I brought her bravery beads today to give you an idea of what she went through. Bravery beads for a pediatric oncology patient is a bead that's given to you for every chemo, every radiation, every blood transfusion, every treatment that you got. So this represents pretty much everything that she's gone through in the last 15 months, or the 15 months of treatment. So it represents every poke, every transplant, every transfusion, as I said. A few days after diagnosis, my wife and I were asked if we would be participating in a clinical trial. We agreed without hesitation. We thought that if this was going to end badly for Olivia, then we wanted to do anything we could to help the next child. It was our belief, if not for research, Olivia wouldn't be here today, along with the other children that we've met along the way. I didn't know it at the time, but the stem cells were first discovered at Princess Margaret. That makes my participation in the ride that much more important to me and my family. So where are we now? Last year in January, I got a call from the doctors that said that Olivia's protein in her urine was starting to climb. The protein is where they first used to diagnose this type of cancer. The numbers, they wouldn't use the word relapse, but we were certain that after 3 months of steady increases, it was only a matter of time. Relapse is a bit of a horrific word to use for this type of cancer because she would relapse. We were told she could relapse maybe 75% of the time. And if she does relapse, it's 95% fatal. Those results proved to be false. The numbers still did climb, but what they did tell us was that we didn't know what her normal was going to be with these proteins. So the proteins more or less leveled out, and they feel that after 12 months of urine samples, they have enough statistical data to believe that that's just what her normal is going to be. And we've been grateful for every second we've had with her since. So am I riding? It's the easy part. After watching your daughter go through 15 months of treatment and being hospitalized for 9 full months of those 15 months, there's no short in motivation there. So I'm riding to honor her bravery. I'm riding for the many children we've met along the way. Like a little girl named Taya that passed away before she even got a chance to fight. And a beautiful little girl named Samantha that was buried in September. They no longer have a chance to ride a bike. I'm riding for the friends and family that have supported us through thoughts and prayers and financially. I promised to them that I would take this and I would pay that kindness forward, and this is my opportunity to do that. To go with that story, this is where I'm going to try and slide it in there. I got a phone call from a friend. We talk about incredible communities supporting. I got a phone call from a friend who lives in Prince George, BC, and she'd asked what I was riding. She saw I was signed up for the Ride to Conquer Cancer. And at that point, I was riding this 29-year-old mountain bike that weighed about 40 pounds. I think it was close to the same size as Cam's bike with the keg on the back. And she said, I told her that, I was, my wife's just back to work, and we were thinking about, I was going to go buy a bike in the fall and when the things go on sale. And she said, leave it with me. I think I might have something suitable for you. She was a fraction of a second behind Olympic qualifying time in triathlon. So I figured she'd call up her mom in Oakville and say, dig out something out of the garage and give this to Sean and dust it up and I'll tune it up and I'll use that. It would have been far better than anything I would be buying. 2 weeks later, a friend of mine pulled up to the front of the house and she had a brand new bike on the back of her car. And she handed it, I said, "You've got a Cannondale?" And she said, "No, that's yours." On top of that, she had this big banner stuck on the side of her car, and it was a $1,700 donation made to the ride. The community, what she did, she told me afterwards, was that she put a Facebook on on Facebook, she put this locked-in group and invited all of these people that I used to hang out with back when I was 19, 20, and so on. And she had said, don't talk outside of this forum, but this is what we were thinking about doing. In a matter of 2 weeks, they had enough money to buy a bike and make a very large donation. The bike was bought in Prince George, FedEx to my friend in Milton, put together, and then brought out for me. 9 hours later, after receiving this bike, I went on a quick ride. The difference between a Cannondale and a Toyota. 9 hours later, I'm sitting at the computer and I've been invited back into this group, and I'm trying to write this thank you message. I deleted it, started writing it again, and I deleted it. Started writing it again, deleted it, and I simply said, I can't come up with words to say thank you enough. What your team is doing, Steve Psychopath, is nothing less than astonishing. The money you raise, the support you give your riders, the awareness that cancer research is needed is remarkable. But what you also do is you generate hope. Denise had mentioned that. Hope for a father and a mother that is faced with the fact that we may not be able to see your little girl graduate, or drive a car, or walk her down the aisle on her wedding night. You just can't put a price to that for us. You just can't. So please keep up the incredible work you're doing. Because as teams like yours, I really believe that cancer can be cured in my lifetime, and I want to be along for the ride. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. That's the second time I've heard that story. I mean, it's hard to get up here after that. It really is. It's, that's the beauty about this bike ride. You hear those stories and they're so inspiring. Like, it motivates me. Like,